Okay, let's start. So for today, we'll be discussing all about standards. Okay, if you can remember our last lesson, ang standards, these are documents in which we know kung sino ang source. Alam natin kung sino ang nagsulat, alam natin na legit or authentic ang documents na ito. So yon, standards yon. Okay? So for standards, there must be no doubt about the authenticity of the standards. The document examiner needs to be able to rely on the standards, and the standards may need to be accepted as evidence in court. Kasi kung maalala niyo rin yung lesson natin, nabanggit natin doon na kahit konting problem lang, kahit iisang paragraph, isang sentence, or iilang words lang ang questionable, or may problem tayo doon sa document, may duda tayo doon, then it automatically becomes a question document. For standards, kailangan talaga walang problem. Wala talaga tayong issue or controversy doon sa ating document. Okay, of course, this is a way kasi, or this is it's a way to determine if a question document is what it is said to be. Kunyari, sinabi na ang question document ay sulat ni Juan de la Cruz. So, yung standard natin, na sulat ni Juan de la Cruz talaga, yung alam natin na legit na sulat niya, i-compare natin doon. Para matukoy talaga natin kung kay Juan de la Cruz ba talaga yung question document na yun, or kung forgery lang ba yun or isang falsified document. Of course, it is to be used kasi in court. Document examiners should automatically ask for original documents if they are not provided. In most cases, original documents are the best evidence, both for standard and question documents, if the original is not available. An early generation photocopy or a photograph of the original can be sufficient for examination. Usually, the question document examiner does not go with the SOCO team. Nasa laboratory lang siya. Okay. And then, it's also automatic na ang hihingin natin na standard is the original document. And that is considered as the best evidence. But the problem is, paano kung wala ng original? May remedyo pa rin naman. Yung early generation photocopy or the first ones to be photocopied right after the original was issued. As in, pagkabigay nung original, photocopy ito, then that can be considered an early generation photocopy. Then, photograph ng original document can also be accepted. Okay, lalo ngayon na halos lahat na sa atin ay merong camera phones. So, it's easy for us to take such evidence. Pipicturean lang natin yung original document, then that can also be subjected for examination kung hindi talaga available yung original. Okay, so within the bounds of reason, there cannot be too many standards. Every handwriting shows natural variation. Later on, i-discuss natin, ilan ba ang kailangan o ilan ba ang sapat na standard documents. Okay? In cases where varying letter forms is an issue and the examiner does not see enough standard writing, he might not have the information needed to form a good opinion. Kasi kung ang sample mo ay, yun nga, kulang, hindi sapat, then hindi mo makukuha yung tamang conclusion. Parang sa DNA evidence din, di ba? Kailangan may sapat na DNA evidence para makapag-gather ng information patungkol doon sa kung sino yung may-ari ng DNA. Also with documents. The best standards are those that most closely emulate the time frame, yung pinaka malapit sa petsa na kung saan kailan ginawa yung standard or yung question document, yun yung magiging standard mo. Kuha nyo yun. For example, ang question document nakalagay October 1, 2021 ang date. So, yung pinakamalapit na petsa kung saan may document din tayo, then that will be considered your best standard. Okay? Circumstances. Pag sinabing circumstances at materials, ito yung mga pagkakataon na, for example, sinulat ang isang document habang nakaupo at may maayos na desk. So, yun, isang circumstance yun. Sa materials naman, kung ang question document is in a bond paper, ay dapat ang magiging standard mo din ay nakasulat sa bond paper. Kung ang question mo nakasulat sa ang gamit ay ballpen, ganun din dapat ang magiging standard mo, yung nakasulat din sa ballpen. And content of the question document. So if one document is a lecture, yung question document natin, lecture siya, lecture notes, then ang mainam na kukunin din natin na standard ay yung lecture notes din. Okay? Therefore, document examiners must look for collected standards executed close in time to the questioned document. This is especially critical in cases involving illnesses, death, accident, mental imbalance, substance abuse, or anything likely to cause a dramatic change in the subject's behavior. May mga sakit kasi, may mga problem sa behavior na nakaka-apekto sa paraan ng pagsusulat. For example, yung madali na lang, merong arthritis. Alam niyo yun? Familiar kayo sa arthritis? Pag masakit ang joints, di ba? Kung masakit ang joints, hihirap din ang pagsusulat. Mahirapan din magsulat yung writer natin. So, mag-iiba yung parang penmanship niya. Okay? Kapag nagkaroon ng problem sa pag-iisip, for example, nag-uulyanin na siya, o syempre, magkakaroon din ng pagbabago doon sa sa kanyang handwriting. So, standard. They are known writings which indicate how a person writes. A writer manifests fixed habits in his writing that identify him. This fact provides the basis for an opinion of conclusion regarding any writing identification problem. A standard, again, these are known writings. These are undisputed documents. Bakit kailangan nito? O bakit ito ginagamit sa pagkakaroon ng examination, ng document examination? Because a writer has fixed habits. Alam niyo yung ibig sabihin ng habits? These are actions that you usually do. Habit. Okay? And ang habits ay hindi ganun kadaling alisin. So if a person writes something in one document, yung paraan niya ng pagsusulat, madadala niya rin sa pagsusulat ng iba pang document. Maki-carry on or maki-carry over din ang kanyang habits doon. At kapag nakita mo na document 1 or yung standard natin and the question document has or shows the same habits, then ang magiging conclusion natin na yung question document ay sinulat nga nung pinagkukumparahan natin sa standard writing. Exemplar. Specimen of the writing of suspects are commonly known as exemplars. The term standards is a general term referring to all authenticated writings of the suspects, while exemplar refers more especially to a specimen of standard writing offered in evidence or obtained or request for comparison with the questioned writing. Kung maalala niyo rin yung lecture natin last time, pag sinabing exemplar, this is a term used by lawyers. So, dito, it's just also a definition. Sinasabi na writing of suspects. Ibig sabihin, meron na talaga tayong na-identify na suspect. Then, hihingin natin yung sulat niya. Papagsulatin natin siya. Then, that will become an exemplar. But take note, exemplars are also standards. Yung term kasi na standard, pang-general siya, pang tukoy siya sa lahat ng standard writings or authentic documents. Sample, a selected representative portion of the whole is known as a sample in this text. The term sample follows closely the statistical usage. If I have a document at ang may issue lang tayo ay yung pirma dahil hindi niya kamukha yung talagang pirma nung nakalagay na pangalan doon, then yung signature na yon, then that is called a sample. Kasi nga, representative portion of the whole. Maaari din na kung meron tayong document, parte lang ng document, yung 2 paragraph lang nung buong document ang gagamitin natin, then that can also be considered a sample. Standards or exemplars are legally admissible, authentic samples of handwriting used for comparison with question writing to determine the authenticity or spuriousness of the questioned writing. They are also called known samples. So their genuineness must be clear and undisputed. So there are different types of standards. First is collected standards. These are documents previously written in the normal and day-to-day course of business and known to be genuine. This may include bank records, letters, legal forms, and others. These are known genuine writing of an individual such as signature and endorsement on canceled checks, legal papers, letters, commercial, official, public, and private documents, and other handwriting such as letters, memoranda written in the course of daily life for both business and socials. In short, eto na ang mga available documents. Sabi nga dyan, documents previously written. Nasulat na siya dati in the normal and day-to-day course of business. So eto yung mga madalas talaga nating sinusulat. Kung araw-araw tayong kumukuha ng lecture notes, nagsusulat tayo ng gagawin nating reviewer, then that can be considered a collected standard. Kung kukunin yan at gagamiting standard. Okay? Basta ang requirement lang sa collected standard, na isulat na ito dati. At ito ay sinusulat sa everyday, sa daily course ng ating business or ng ating buhay. Requested standards naman, so request, hinihingi, di ba? Samples that the subject is requested to give in order to facilitate the document examination. Ibig sabihin, if I have a suspect at sinabi ko sa kanya na pakisulat itong mga sasabihin ko, so nagdidictate ako, nagsusulat siya, then yung sinulat niya, that is considered a requested standard. As compared to collected standard, ito ay previously written na. Requested standard, ire-request talaga natin, papasulat natin sa kanya. Okay? These are signatures or other handwritings or handprintings written by an individual upon request for the purpose of comparison with other handwriting or for specimen purposes. Next, post-litan motan exemplars, writings produced by the subject after evidential writings have come into dispute and solely for the purpose of establishing his contentions. For example, meron na tayong na-enter into evidence na document or na writing. So kung ebidensya na siya, ibig sabihin alam natin legit na. Kapag yon ay nagkaroon ng problem doon sa nakasubmit na nating evidence at nanghingi tayo ulit ng sample, nanghingi tayo ulit ng standard, that will be considered a post-litan motan exemplar. Okay? Legal aspects of standard writing. If the standard used by the document examiner in an identification of writings on which the document examiner bases his conclusion cannot be introduced, then the document examiner may not be able to provide convincing demonstration or his testimony may be weakened. So, ano-ano yung standard writing na admissible para gamitin for comparison? So first, standard writing witness. Na witness nakita na sinusulat yung document. Okay. So, tatlo. Tatlo ang uri niyan. First, the court accepts as a sufficient proof that evidence in the form of uncontradicted testimony of a competent eyewitness to the execution of writing is sufficient to permit the use of such writings as standard to test other writings. Dito, may witness talaga, may nakakita na nagsulat yung ating subject. Literal na nakikita niyang nagsulat. Yun. Tinatanggap ng korte yun. Ikalawa, it is not necessary for the witness to actually have watched the pen of the writer as it passed over the paper where it appeared that there was no other person present at the time but the writer and the witnesses, that the writing was done in the witnesses' presence, and that the writer then gave them the pen. For example, nasa interrogation room ang ating subject. Walang ibang tao doon. Ikaw ang nagbigay ng papel tsaka ballpen sa kanya. Hindi mo nakita na nagsulat talaga siya. Na yung ballpen niya ay lumapat doon sa papel at nagsulat. Hindi mo nakita yon. Pero sure ka na wala namang ibang nandoon sa loob ng interrogation room. Yung subject mo lang. So walang ibang paraan para maipaliwanag kung bakit may sulat doon, kung hindi dahil sa yung subject mo ang mismong nagsulat doon. Kahit na hindi mo actual na nakitang nagsulat siya. Tinatanggap pa rin ng korte yun. Included in this class of admissible standards are writings voluntarily prepared by a party in the absence or presence of an investigator. Kapag kusang ibinigay ang isang standard, that can also be accepted by the court. Although, sa number 2, standard writings admitted, if the party whom a handwriting standard is to be admitted, the genuineness of the standards, the court could hold that further proof of genuineness is necessary. For example, we have a suspect. Tapos nagbigay siya, nag-volunteer siya ng kanyang documents, mga lecture notes niya, para gamiting standard. Although binigay niya yan, although nag-volunteer siya, yung court pwede pa rin niyang sabihin na kailangan pa natin ng further proof na itong sulat na ito ay legit. Pwede niya pa rin tanungin yun. Pwede niya pa rin sabihin yun. Number 3, ano pang standard writing ang admissible for comparison purposes? Records maintained in the regular course of business as standard writings. Ano yun? Generally, the context of records maintained in the regular course of business are admissible as an exemption to the hearsay rule as proof of their contents. For example, everyday kang nagsusulat ng inventory. So, yung mga past inventory, they are also accepted. Kasi nga, this is written in a daily time. Yun. Another, government documents as standard writings, yung mga nasa documents natin issued by the government, they are also accepted as standards. Signatures of government officials on document treated as authentic and produced from official archives may be admitted as evidence as standard of comparison. Doon sa ating mga birth certificate, kung may mga PSA kayo, may sa baba nun, merong nakapirma. Yung nakapirma na yon, yung signature niya, that can be considered standard. Bakit? Kasi nga government document yon. Okay, na legit. Next is ancient writings. Ancient. Matagal na panahon na. The courts have admitted writings on ancient document as standard of comparison. The oldest book is the Bible. So, yung pinaka-original na Bible, yung nakasulat pa sa, hindi bond paper, hindi rin onion skin, yung nakasulat pa sa papyrus, o kaya sa scroll, they are considered standards. Bakit? Kasi nga ancient writing na sila. And last is familiarity. So familiarity sometimes establishes standard writings, testimony to the genuineness of a collection of standards of writings by witnesses who are familiar with the person's handwriting. For example, nakilala ng nanay mo na, ay, oo, sa anak ko yung sulat na yan. Then that can be admitted as a standard for comparison purposes dahil nakilala ng isang tao na alam talaga. Sure tayo na alam kung ano ang sulat mo. Then, pag na-identify niya yon, ayun na nga, pwede itong maging standard. Classes of question documents. So, ito yung mga iba't ibang pinag-aaralan sa QD. Document with question signature. Document containing alleged fraudulent alteration. Document questioned as to the material used in their production. Ano yung ginamit na material? Bond paper ba ito? Oslo paper ba to? Construction paper? Whatever. Document questioned as to its date or age. May mga falsified documents kasi na sinasabi sa ganitong petsa ito ginawa. Pero yung totoo, hindi naman. I remember the Hitler diaries. Merong 3 journals, may 3 diary. Kay Hitler daw yon. Tapos, pati syempre dahil skeptical ang tao, in-examine nila kung kay Hitler nga ba talaga. Kasi baka pinagkakakitaan lang yung mga pinagbibigyan nun, di ba? So, nakita nila na may differences sa actual na sulat. May mga letters na magkaiba. At ang pinaka daming evidence ay yung ink na ginamit doon sa so-called Hitler diaries, yung isang component doon, yung isang ingredient doon, ay hindi pa nag-e-exist nung buhay pa si Hitler. Nag-exist lang yung ganung ink after Hitler already died. So ano ang implication nun? Na yung Hitler diaries ay hindi talaga si Hitler ang nagsulat. Imposible namang gumamit siya ng ink na hindi pa nag-e-exist nung buhay siya, di ba? So yun, we also study that documents that are questioned as to its date or age. Holographic document questioned or disputed. If you can remember, holographic documents are documents completely written and signed by one person only without the presence of any witnesses. Usually seen in last will and testaments. Document questioned as to its typewriting, pica or elite. Also in question documents, pag-aaralan pa rin natin ang typewriting. Bakit ma'am? Hindi naman na tayo gumagamit ng typewriter. Kasi yung mga documents noon ay madami pang nakagawa sa typewriter. So, may mga chance pa rin na itong mga documents na ito ay mafo-forge or mafa-falsify. So, we have to identify the different kinds of typewriting. Okay. Katulad ng birth certificate. My birth certificate is typewritten. Kaya kahit yung PSA copy ng birth certificate ko, na typewritten siya pero scanned. Yan. Okay. So, forensic document examination. So, it is the practice of the application of document examination to the purposes of the law. This includes the identification of handwriting, typewriting, the authenticity of signatures, alterations in documents, the significance of inks and papers, photocopying processes, writing instruments, sequence of writings, and other elements of a document in relation to its authenticity or spuriousness. In short, lahat ng patungkol sa document, pinag-aaralan ng isang forensic document examiner. And that is what you do in forensic document examination. Ano pang ginagawa? Handwriting and signature comparisons, detection of alterations, deletions, and substitution, may pinapalit. Mechanical and electronic impression comparison. Pag sinabing mechanical, pagsusulat, detection of counterfeits, pati yung sa pera, money bills, pag-aaralan din natin. Decipherment of obliterated text, examination of water-soaked, charred, stained, or torn documents, ink and paper comparison, determination of sequence entry, detection, and analysis of indented and other accidental writings, and age of documents. Next is forensic document examiner. Sino yan? The examination conducted by the forensic document examiner should be thorough, accurate, and entirely objective. He must establish the facts of the document's preparation and history through a study of its identifying details and the comparison of its elements with those of known specimens. Forensic document examiners or question document examiners refer to persons who study all aspects of a document. Yun nga yung sinasabi ko sa inyo. Lahat ng patungkol sa document, pinag-aaralan niya. To determine its authenticity, origin, handwriting, photocopies, inks, and paper. So ano ang goal ng isang forensic document examiner? To study and investigate documents in order to determine the facts about their preparation and history. The forensic document examiner's scope of expertise also includes the following: recognizing genuineness, analyzing color tone of inks, papers, and other substances that complete documents. Iba-iba ang tinta. Kaya matutukoy natin parehas silang black, pero hindi talaga parehas na parehas ang pagka-black niya. Ito, parehas naman red, pero magkaiba yung pagka-red. Okay? Revealing additions and substitutions, restoring or deciphering erased and obliterated writing. Next, 3 major stakeholders on the services of QDE. Sino ba yung mga nakikinabang? Sino yung stakeholders sa question document examination? 3, the litigant, legal counsel, and the judge. For the litigant, he is the one affected in the outcome of the examination and most interested party of the document being disputed. Siya yung nagbigay ng interest na i-examine ng isang document. Sabihin natin siya ang recipient ng estate na nakalagay doon sa sa last will and testament. So, gusto niya ma-establish yung mga karapatan niya doon, papa-examine niya yung mismong document. So, yung litigant yun. Another is the legal counsel. This is the lawyer. Serves the litigant who ensures the winning of the case at the most possible case. Siyempre, gusto mong maipanalo niya yung kaso mo, di ba? So, makikinabang din siya. And of course, the judge. Siyempre, yung judge, he is the one determining whether to appreciate or reject the services to a particular proceeding in a case. Siya ang magde-decide sa mga bagay-bagay patungkol doon sa kaso mo. PNP question document examiners. There is a separate division sa PNP dedicated to the examination of question documents. Ito yung QDED. So, ano ang requirement para maging question document examiner ng PNP? Yung pulis ka at document examiner ka, or kahit hindi ka pulis, pero nagsiservice ka sa PNP as a question document examiner. Ito ang requirements. Kailangan licensed criminologist ka. So, tayo lang talaga ang may karapatan na mag-serve as a question document examiner. I know you know this, na hindi naman lahat ng police ay graduate ng criminology at hindi naman lahat ay licensed criminologist or registered criminologist. Some teachers graduate ng IT, yung iba nga nursing pa, kung ano-anong course ang hinahire ng PNP. But if you want to work sa crime laboratory, as a question document examiner, you have to be a licensed or a registered criminologist. Another requirement has specialized training of at least 6 months under the supervision of the PNP Crime Laboratory, and another 6 months of continuous and actual question document examination under the supervision of a qualified forensic document examiner of the Philippine National Police Crime Laboratory. Nag-training siya ng 6 months sa crime lab, and then parang nag-OJT siya. May actual na siyang trabaho for 6 months pa under the supervision of the PNP QDED. Yun ang requirements. Anong trabaho nila? To examine, identify, compare, and analyze signatures, handwritings, initials, and typewriting in question documents. To conduct examination, identification, comparison, and analysis of obliterations, erasures, and abrasions in checks, treasury notes, and stamps. To conduct examination, comparison, and analysis of interlineations, insertions, and distortions in question documents. To take photographic reproductions of evidences that are examined, compared, and analyzed, and identified. To evaluate and prepare reports on documents examined. Matik naman yan eh. Lahat naman ng galaw ng mga pulis laging may report na katapat. To conduct lectures regarding the different examinations on question documents, as well as the functions and capabilities of the QDED. Question Document Examination Division. And, of course, to appear as expert witness in civil and military courts regarding findings on questioned documents. Trabaho ng pulis talaga maging expert witness. Kasi nga, di ba, siya ang nag-examine, so therefore, siya nang magte-testify regarding the findings. The Philippine National Police Crime Laboratory Group includes the QDED, Question Document Examination Division, which aims to provide scientific support in forms of documentary and testimonial evidences. The function of the QDED is to conduct examination of question documents as follows. Ito yung mga ginagawa nila: handwriting examination, imprint examination, writing media examination, dating examination, examination of falsification and alterations, examination of invisible, faded, and obscured writings and impressions of writings, examination of preternatural paper characteristics, miscellaneous examination, and conduct lectures to the PNP, AFP, and other government agencies. Also, to conduct field laboratory works and attend court duties. So, what is the role and nature of question document in police work? Document examinations performed by the QDED are based on written requests from government agencies, private investigating agencies, court orders, and as well as private requesting parties. So, hindi naman required na involve lang sa crime ang pwede nating ipa-examine na document. Pwede rin naman na yung mga private investigating agencies, yung mga PI, court orders, inutos ng judge, o kaya private requesting party. Kunyari, ako lang gusto kong malaman kung talagang itong mga estudyante ko, pinagloloko ba ako o pinasulat ba nila sa iba yung assignment nila o sila talaga mismo yung gumawa. Yun. So nabanggit nga natin na hindi lang naman crime ang paraan para ma-examine ng isang document. Pwede yung mga nabanggit natin kanina. So, pwedeng examination of altered or erased document, examination of counterfeit bills, handwriting identification, signature identification. May iba't ibang fees at depende rin ang oras ng trabaho, kung gaano katagal gagawin yung examination sa kung ano yung ini-examine. Kung mapapansin nyo, matagal talaga kapag handwriting identification or signature identification. Kumpara sa examination of counterfeit bills, mas madali talaga yun. Actually, saglit lang yan. Siyempre, umaabot lang ng, nilalagay lang ng 3 working days para sure na matatanggap mo siya at hindi siya matatabunan. Okay, and of course, may iba't ibang requirements. So, criminologists as question document examiners. So, criminologists in the field, this is still based on RA 6506, yung original na law natin for the board exam. So, or the profession. Practice of criminology defined. A person is deemed to be engaged in the practice of criminology if he holds himself out to the public in any of the following capacities. So, madami yan, pero syempre, nag-focus na lang tayo sa QD. Dun sa number 3, as technician in dactyloscopy, ballistics, question documents, police photography, lie detection, forensic chemistry, and other scientific aspects of crime detection. Kaya nga, di ba, isa sa mga requirements talaga para ma-qualify ka as a question document examiner sa PNP ay registered criminologist ka. Ito nga di ba, sinasabi na practice of criminology. Pag technician ka, examiner, specialist ka sa mga to. At isa na nga doon yung question documents. So tayo lang talaga ang may ganyang karapatan na makapag-practice na magkaroon ng ganitong trabaho. Registered criminologists lang. In Section 24 naman, privileges of certified criminologists. All certified criminologists shall be exempt from taking any other entrance or qualifying government or civil service examinations and shall be considered civil service eligibles to the following government positions: dactylographer, ballistician, question document examiner, correctional officer, law enforcement photographer, and others. So, ang sinasabi lang dyan, kung gusto nating maging question document examiner, wala nang ibang kailangan na i-take na examination. Dahil qualified na tayo kaagad dahil registered criminologist ka na. Privilege natin yan. Professional practices of question document examiner. Practices on QDE is professionalized by the PRC or the Professional Regulation Commission. Sila yung nag-i-issue ng board exam. Sila yung gumagawa ng mga questions. Sila ang nag-i-issue ng ating results kung sino ang mga nakapasa. At sila din ang nagsasabi kung sila yung nag-i-issue ng ID natin na tayo ay registered criminologist. If a criminologist is deemed unethical, his license may be revoked as per Section 20 of Republic Act 6506. So, hindi porket may lisensya ka na, sa'yo na yan forever. Dahil wala ngang forever. Pwede yang maalis sa'yo because that is only a privilege. Bakit siya privilege lang? Hindi yan right. Hindi yan iyo. Kahit naman ikaw ang naghirap na mag-aral at para makapasa sa board exam. Because you are still subject to the ethics of your profession. If you are deemed unethical, pwedeng alisin sa'yo ang lisensya mo. Remember the Hayden Co. and Katrina Halili scandal? During that time, wala pang cybercrime law. After their scandal, tsaka palang nagkaroon ng cybercrime law because of their case. So, Dr. Hayden Co. was not imprisoned. Hindi rin siya talaga, sabi na natin, ang naging parusa niya lang talaga ay yung hindi siya nakapag-practice ng kanyang profession. Di ba, doktor siya? So, sakop din siya ng PRC. So, he was not able to practice dahil inalisan siya ng lisensya because he was deemed unethical. So, the revocation, pag-alis of certificate of registration, the board may, after giving due notice and hearing to the party concerned, revoke or suspend his certificate of registration if found guilty of malpractice, incompetency, unprofessional conduct, serious ignorance, or gross negligence in the practice of criminology. He shall be required to surrender his certificate of registration to the board. The decision of the board, however, may be appealed within 30 days to the President of the Philippines, whose decision shall be final. So, pag naalisan ka ng lisensya, pwede ka namang umapila kay President of the Philippines. Pag sinabi ni President na, sige, balik niyo yung lisensya niya, then that decision will be final. Kumbaga, sa korte, siya ang magiging Supreme Court natin sa pag-apila para ibalik yung lisensya natin kung sakaling maalis. Okay, expert witness. So under the revised rules on evidence, rules 128 to 134 under rules of court, in section 48, general rule. The opinion of witness is not admissible except as indicated in the following sections. Diyan muna tayo, section 48. Ang opinion ng isang witness ay hindi tinatanggap. Yan ang general rule. Your Honor, sa tingin ko po, ganito ang nangyari. Your Honor, ganito po kasi ang paniniwala ko. Your Honor, I believe. Yung mga words na yun, hindi pwede. Bakit hindi pwede? Kasi that means that you are stating your personal opinion and you cannot give your opinion. Ano ba ang trabaho ng witness? Sabihin kung ano ang kanyang mga na-perceive. Ano yung ibig sabihin nun? Nakita, naamoy, narinig, nalasahan, yung mga yan, naramdaman. Yan ang pwede niyang banggitin sa korte dahil sa pagiging witness niya. In section 49 naman, opinion of expert witness. Oh, ma'am, kala ko ba hindi pwede ang opinion? O bakit ngayon may opinion? Ito, the opinion of a witness on a matter requiring special knowledge, skill, experience, or training which he's shown to possess may be perceived in evidence. Okay, if you are sabihin na natin, a normal witness, then you cannot give your opinion. But if you are an expert witness, then you can give your opinion. Basically, the opinion of an expert witness is their conclusion. Conclusion saan? Doon sa ginawa niyang examination, doon sa ebidensya. Sabi nga natin kanina, di ba? Pag witness, of course, dapat nandun siya sa crime scene. Kasi nga, narinig niya, nakita niya, naamoy niya, nalasahan niya, naramdaman niya regarding something related to the crime. But the expert witness is not there during the commission of the crime. Nasaan siya? Nasa laboratory siya. Ang ginawa niya lang, pinag-aralan niya yung ebidensya na ipinresenta. That way, pag na-examine na niya, of course, magkakaroon ng result. Then that result will be subject to the interpretation of that examiner. Then that interpretation, that conclusion, pag sinabi na yan sa korte, ang term natin is opinion. Kaya opinion of expert witness. Bakit? Ano bang meron ng expert witness na wala si ordinary witness? Eto, meron siyang special knowledge, meron siyang skill, meron siyang experience, meron siyang training patungkol doon sa ginawa niyang study or examination. For example, hindi naman lahat ng police ay marunong mag-examine ng question document. So, ang pwede lang talagang mag-examine ng isang document is a question document examiner, a registered criminologist. Then, wala nang ibang makagagawa nun. Therefore, siya lang talaga ang pwedeng maging expert witness kapag pinresenta na yun sa korte. Siya lang yung may skill, siya lang yung may experience, siya lang yung may training. Also, in addition, hindi porket registered criminologist ka na, ay agad-agad mako-consider ka ng or matatanggap ka ng expert witness. Sa korte kasi, ipaliliwanag mo pa, ide-defend mo pa, ipepresenta mo pa actually yung witness mo kung bakit siya nagiging qualified as an expert. So, hindi porket registered criminologist ka, sa korte expert witness ka na, hindi. Kailangan maipakita mo talaga na matindi yung skill mo, matindi yung experience matindi yung mga naging training mo at madami kang alam tungkol doon sa subject na yon before the judge can consider you an expert. So, depende pa rin yun sa judge kung makukumbinsi ba ng abogado ninyo na ikaw ay isang expert. Kasi kung sinabi mo lang, Your Honor, registered criminologist to. That's not enough. Okay. Anong trabaho niya? Ng isang question document examiner as an expert witness. Of course, he enlightens the problem. Siya nga magpapaliwanag, di ba? Proof is submitted through written reports and illustration charts in order to justify conclusions or opinions. So, pwede siyang magdala ng visual aid sa korte at gagamitin niya yon para ma-defend yung kanyang opinion. His opinion will be one of the basis of the court in deciding the case. Proper care and handling of question documents. So, what's the effect of improper or careless handling of disputed document? It can compromise the forensic examination. Okay. Kaya nga, dapat sa una pa lang, maayos na ang ating handle ng question documents. Kasi kung sa una pa lang fail na, then hindi mo na magagamit yung ebidensya na yon. So it will compromise the examination. When a question document is found at a crime scene, the document examiner is usually not among the first responder to ensure its proper care and handling. Sino ba ang unang dumadating sa crime scene? Of course, yung sa SOCO or the first responders, yung sa stasyon na mga police, depende nga. Pero yun naman talagang kadalasan yung nasa police station. It is therefore important that first responders to crime scenes are properly trained to do this. The process of proper handling of document evidence begins when a document is first recognized as having some level of significance in a crime or other litigation or civil inquiry. From the moment that the genuineness of a document is questioned, it should be handled and cared for in such manner as not to impair in the slightest degree its value as evidence. Precautions may seem unnecessary, but it frequently happens that through carelessness or ignorance, the evidential value of an important document is seriously impaired and the case becomes jeopardized. Kaya talagang mahalaga na maingat tayo sa pag-handle ng documentary evidence. Especially, alam naman natin to, majority of documents are written in paper. Alam natin kung gaano ka-fragile ang paper. Ang daling matupi, ang daling mabutas, ang daling pag nabasa, masisira na yung tinta, kakalat, di ba? As early as practicable, the exact physical condition of every part of a suspected document should be carefully preserved. It is usually of interest to one of the parties to insist that the document to be properly protected and cared for. Question document examination must take place first before subjecting the evidence to other forensic disciplines or processes such as taking latent prints and thin layer chromatography. Take note ha, kung ang isang dokumento, madaming tests na gagawin sa kanya, i-examine natin siya. Yung kung kanino bang sulat to, kung anong klaseng papel ito, anong klaseng tinta ang ginamit natin. Kukuhanan natin siya ng fingerprint. Ang pinakaunang gagamit dapat ng ebidensya is the question document examiner. Baka magtalo si question document examiner tsaka si fingerprint examiner. Hindi, ako muna. Mag-uunahan sila. Pero may rule naman dyan. At ang rule nga, mauuna si question document examiner. Bakit? This processes yung sa taking of latent prints, thin layer chromatography. This processes may contaminate and destroy the evidence. Therefore, the forensic document examiner has to have first priority in examining the evidence in order to ensure a comprehensive document examination. Kailangan talaga mauna si document examiner. Kasi sa latent prints, ilalagay yan sa fume hood, papausukan ng super glue. O, diba? Eh di, baka makaapekto yun sa ink. So, dapat, o makakaapekto yun dun sa actual na sulat, dun sa, yung ink nga, baka kumalat, hindi natin sure, diba? So, kailangan, madali lang naman yan eh. Pipicturean niya lang. Pipicturean niya lang, o kaya i-scan or i-photocopy. Then, yun na yun. Tapos na siya. Kasi kapag nag-compare ka naman ng documents, yung handwriting or signature, hindi mo naman ginagamit yung actual na original document. Ang ginagamit mo for examination is the photocopy or the photograph or the scanned document. Okay? So there are some recommendations to retain a question document's evidentiary value. Ano yung mga hindi natin dapat gawin para manatiling intact ang integrity ng evidence natin. So first, do not use staples, pins, or clips. Huwag mong i-staple. Sabihin natin dahil may 10 pages yung document. Ang ginawa mo, ini-staple mo sila para sama-sama. Hindi dapat ganun. Bakit? Eh kasi syempre, magkakabutas, di ba? Huwag ka maglalagay ng pin, huwag ka maglalagay ng clip. Do not make perforations, huwag kang mambubutas doon. Baka inip na inip ka na, binutas-butasan mo yung papel. Kahit doon sa blankong parte, huwag mong gagawin yun. Do not create new folds. Huwag kang magdadagdag ng kahit anong tupi. Do not write on or otherwise mark the documents. If labeling and initialing is necessary, then make identification marks in blank spaces. Or, it's better na hindi ka magsusulat doon sa actual na papel, yung actual na ebidensya. Isulat mo yung markings mo doon sa folder or doon sa envelope kung saan mo ilalagay yung ebidensyang yon. Doon ka magsulat. Okay? Do not write on the evidence envelope if it contains the document. So, if for example, this is the document, nakalagay na siya sa isang evidence envelope. Huwag mo susulatan yung envelope na yun. Yung envelope, ilagay mo ulit sa envelope na galing sa inyo sa crime lab. Kasi malamang may ebidensya din doon. Do not touch the document with a pencil, pen, or other pointed instrument. Baka yung ginanon-ganon mo yung ballpen mo, kaya yung lapis mo doon sa papel dahil naiinip ka. Huwag mong gagawin yan. Do not glue the pieces of a torn or fragmented document onto a background. Submit them as is in a sealed evidence package. Baka dahil sa sobrang inip mo o kaya ang nakuha mong ebidensya ay yung document na pinadaan na sa shredder. So, putol-putol na siya. Ang gagawin mo nun, wag mong gagawin na pagdidikit-dikitin mo siya, naggumawa ka ng puzzle doon sa crime scene o kaya gumawa ka ng mosaic. Kung may gagawa man yan, yung document examiner doon na sa laboratory, pero ikaw na nagkokolekta ng ebidensya dyan sa crime scene, wag mong gagawin yun. O, diba? Nag-art project ka pa doon. Do not make erasures. Baka lahat ng wrong spelling, binura mo. Huwag mong gagawin yun. Do not make any tracings. Do not cut or tear the document. Also, do not attempt to repair the cut. Sabihin natin na 3 words lang naman nakalagay doon sa papel. So, pinunit mo na lang ng kalahati para madaling i-examine. Huwag mong gagawin yun, ha? O kaya may punit na. Kumuha ka ng glue, kumuha ka ng scotch tape, dinikit mo para maayos. Huwag mo rin gagawin yun. Hayaan mo kung paano mo siyang nakuha, ganun mo dapat siyang madala sa crime lab. Do not underscore, highlight, or circle words. Lahat ng wrong spelling, lahat ng wrong grammar, lahat ng mali ang punctuation, binilugan mo. Kaya hin-highlight mo, mong gagawin yun. Do not carry disputed documents loosely in pockets. Of course, baka malaglag. Do not allow other people to handle or tamper with questioned writings. Do not allow the suspect to handle or see the disputed document. Bakit? Kasi baka pag nakita niya, ibahin niya yung sulat niya. Do not allow anyone other than a properly trained forensic scientist to make chemical or other tests. Kasi sabi ko nga sa inyo, sa ink, may mga chemical na tests. So, yung trained lang ang pwedeng gumawa nun. Ano naman yung mga dapat gawin? So use envelopes for storage and transportation. Yung nabanggit natin kanina. The envelope should be large enough to hold the document without folding. If the document is to be examined for fingerprints or indented writing, wear gloves or hold it tightly between the sides of the fingers, but only long enough to place it in the evidence envelope. Be sure to label the envelope for fingerprinting. So, if ang envelope nyo ay dapat laging mas malaki kumpara doon sa aktual na ebidensya. Baka ang dala mo, short envelope, yung evidence natin, long, tinupi mo para magkasya. Hindi pwede yun. Okay? At kung kailangan mo talaga siyang hawakan, kailangan sa gilid lang. Ganyan lang siya. Nakaganyan lang. Para minimal lang ang effect doon sa paper. So, another thing that you should do is photocopy, photograph, or scan the documents as required. The process will not damage them in any way. Do not use the auto-feed option on a photocopier. Alam niyo sa photocopy machine, meron yung, di ba, may yung tinataas, ilalagay yung papel, isasara, tapos may pipindutin, photocopy na siya. Meron din yung kung maramihan, ilalagay mo dito sa taas, tapos kakainin niya isa-isa, yun. Ang tawag doon ay auto-feed. Kasi nga, hindi mo na isa-isang ilalagay. Automatic na niyang kukunin yun. So, hindi mo pwedeng gamitin kasi pagkakuha kasi ng papel, dumadaan yun sa mga rollers. So, nayuyupi yung ating document. So, masisira yung ebidensya natin. Then, protect documents from excessive heat, light, or dampness. Prepare a complete history of each document showing date, place, and form, and from whom it was obtained. Of course, that follows the chain of evidence. So you should handle documents as little as possible. As we've mentioned, documents are usually in paper. So they are very, very fragile. So hanggat maaari, huwag mo nga hawakan kapag kailangan na kailangan lang talaga. Remember, the document evidence must be examined first before it is subjected to additional forensic examinations. Nabanggit na to kanina. Be sure to state in the evidence package or in the request to the examiner that additional forensic testing is desired. Questions? May tanong?
Wala po.
Yung iba, baka may tanong.
Good evening po, ma'am. May concern lang po, pero hindi po siya about sa lesson.
Sige.
Nasabihan na po kasi kami about po sa mode of learning